Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Purple Insider. Matthew Collar here. And returning to the show, Will Parkinson from Turn On the Jets, Turn On the Sam Darnold talk in Minnesota. Will, what is going on, man? Thanks for coming back to the show.
Yeah, I guess I have to start covering the Vikings now. This is they're acquiring all my former guys. We got Sammy D, Blake Cashman. We are rolling.
Well, we could definitely get into Blake Cashman, but of course, the quarterback, the more exciting of the two signings, the more impactful might actually be Blake Cashman, depending on how things play out with Sam Darnold. I have seen a lot of folks who don't seem to understand what a bridge quarterback does or what a backup quarterback for a young rookie, what their job might be. But I do want to talk to you about the Sam Darnold and his situation in the Jets because this is being brought up quite a bit as a reason for the Vikings to sign Sam Darnold is the idea that what he had around him and the circumstances were so poor in New York that there still should be considered some potential there. So why don't we begin with that idea? Are you on that bus, or do you think like, hey guys, like a quarterback that didn't work out for a reason, don't get too crazy?
Um, Good question. So I look at it a couple of different ways. I think Sam's definitely super talented. I think he's one of those people that is well liked, handles himself well. He's been great with the media, things like that when he was with the Jets for sure. I think you saw flashes of full games, full 3 to 4 week stretches where you're like, wow, like obviously the infamous last 4 games of 2018, his rookie year, he was the top 5 rated quarterback and he put up 400 yards and 3 touchdowns against, Aaron Rodgers, and they dueled it out in a meaningless, overtime game. And there was just, you were like, wow, there was a Christmas Eve game against the Texans when they started doing those Saturday games. And it was like, Sam's really good. Like he's going to be awesome. And then, 2019 starts and the Jets make all these signings that mostly all sucked. Le'Veon Bell, Quincy Enunwa gets re-signed to an extension, never plays again, on and on, right? And Ryan Khalil out of retirement. What a great shrewd Joe Douglas first signing. Played about 7 games, but regardless, Sam has mono. He comes back against the Cowboys, and you're like, this, yep, here it is. And the ghost game happens, and it feels like it all kind of started to go downhill. And then the COVID year was just a disaster for the entire Jets organization. The roster sucked. The coaches sucked. Sam was pretty freaking bad. Everyone, Rashad Perryman and all these guys. So again, like all fair excuses. When the Jets definitely failed Darnold in a lot of senses. They had McCown around year one. He was amazing for Sam. Like treated him like a younger brother and like follow me around. You've heard some of the Johnny Manziel stories. Hey, when McCown was around, like I actually think I got it. And then he was gone, and Manziel went off the wagon. Not Sam Darnold's very much different going off the wagon. Confidence, maybe not, touching touching more of the drugs and alcohol scene. But look, I would say for Sam, he's the one couple things he struggles with. I'm not sure he'll ever be awesome at. He doesn't process super well. He still gets a little like shaky with his feet at times. And if he doesn't feel comfortable early on in the game, there's times where he can panic. The corner route against cover two and in the red zone is a killer. He made that mistake a million times. But I will say, watching him the last couple of years, he definitely has gotten better at calming his feet down a little bit. The mechanics look a little better. San Francisco, I thought in the times he played, I think they would have been in the playoff. They could have made the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold this year. Like I don't think the Niners were maybe not the title game, but like they were. I don't know. I just feel like they would have been fine with Sam. Between O'Connell, McCown, and the talent he has around him, he should be good enough to at least be a bridge guy. And is he going to have the Geno Smith reclamation project? I don't know. But Sam will be fun. He'll make highlight reel plays. And if he can kind of limit some of the mistakes and O'Connell can kind of say, listen, like 1-2, get out of there and run, whatever it may be. And honestly, stay healthy. That's something he struggled a little bit with. The Vikings can be frisky. And then hopefully if you draft a JJ McCarthy and trade up, you don't have to play him year one. And it's the best of both worlds. Or you suck and you have a top 5 pick next year.
Yeah, I don't know if they could be he would have to really suck to have a top 5 pick. I mean, because and quarterback wins, whatever, it doesn't need to be said, but he won 8 out of 17 games in Carolina with also mostly an atrocity. That Carolina team was brutal. And if you're looking for evidence of him taking steps forward, you can find it in 2022. It's just that no one paid attention to the end of the season Carolina Panthers in 2022 I don't even think Carolina Panthers fans would have paid attention to that, but he does have a handful of games that go together pretty well and they have less turnovers. And the issue with Darnold coming out in the draft that concerned me, that a lot of the draft analysts said, oh, don't worry about all those interceptions and fumbles. They seem to follow him. And when you look at those turnover worthy plays versus big time throws, kind of a ratio there, you want it to be like 2-1, not 1-1, and definitely not negative, where you have somebody who has all this arm talent, but way more turnover worthy plays than they do big time throws. And if he can reduce that in his middle age of 26 now, which another sort of mind blowing thing, you draft a guy and he's 20 and he doesn't work out. And yet he's still only 2.5 or 3 years older than like Bo Nix or something, which it seems super weird because he's been around for this long. But at the center of it, his issues in the NFL seemed to be that he could not stop turning the ball over. So how do you factor that with all those other things? I mean, you mentioned, well, he didn't have good coaching. He had atrocious coaching, like didn't have good receivers. I have a game here in this notepad of Memphis Grizzlies or Sam Darnold targets that we're going to play later, because I looked up the receivers he was throwing to and started laughing at some of the names. So we're going to go through that later. But can you put a percentage on it? Can you put it like, how much really was it? Because you mentioned this situation is one of the 5 best in the entire NFL for quarterbacks.
Yeah, look, I think I'm looking here. Sam's last, 16 appearances. A lot of those are just kind of out of the game. With a lot of those were with San Francisco this year, where they're blowing teams out. Last 7 starts, 1,450 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks, first, 91 QB rating. So like, and a 4-3 record. Before that, the year before in Carolina, started off hot, and then these interceptions come in bunches for him. He has these stretches, 3 or 4 weeks. We saw it at the beginning of 2022 or 2021, whatever. No, 2021. It's really good. McCaffrey got hurt, and then it was all over. Aaron Jones signing is obviously a big thing. When Sam's got a good running back, he's looked good. It's when he doesn't have that security blanket and there's no run game or there's no creativity on offense, it starts to crumble. But I don't want to say it's more than 75% the Jets, because when he was with the Jets, because he did it in Carolina and it was kind of the same thing. He's been in awful situations, and when he's been in a good situation, he's looked fine. Or it's an ideal thing, certain opponents, he's looked good, or he gets in these runs. It's just when it goes bad, that it's really pretty much whenever he plays the Patriots, it's a disaster. And even happened when he was in Carolina, Belichick just ruined Darnold's brain for a little while. But I will say again, does he struggle with turnovers and processing? 100%. That's why he's in the position he's in at 26 years old, with all that talent, being a free agent. That said, I don't know. Like I said, I just think he would have been fine this year in San Francisco. Like, there's an argument to me the Jets should have just traded back and taken Devontae Smith or Penei Sewell or Michael Parsons, whoever, and loaded up on first round picks and run it back with Sam one more year. I just think to myself, like, the situation he's in now in Minnesota, the expectations will not be that high, regardless of who they draft. He will be in a situation where really good offensive head coach, a quarterback coach he knows and has been his most confident self. If the Vikings offensive line can play even half decent, it's a really good group of skill guys, really damn good, with a really good play caller. He should have success. How much success? Does that mean they're a frisky borderline playoff team? Very much could be. I think he'll be good. I just don't know. It's all going to depend on what they do in the draft. But if they do trade up for a quarterback, you've had a great situation where you can Jordan Love this thing. You can Patrick Mahomes this thing, where you don't have to play a guy year one. O'Connell's not going anywhere. Quessie's not going anywhere. Justin Jefferson, once you lock him up in an extension, which better get on that before Jamar Chase gets extended. They're just in a good spot where the defense is going to be better next year. They've added a bunch of talent, already, edge rushers, linebackers, et cetera. Brian Flores probably could have been an assistant coach of the year last year if, anyone would have paid attention to any of the Vikings games. So I just feel like they're in a situation where the Bears are frisky, but rookie quarterback, Green Bay, going to have way too high of expectations, in my opinion, next year for a team that was good and got hot at the right time. That how do you handle success will be interesting. And then, the Lions are probably going to be awesome, but I don't know. We don't really know every year. The defense is kind of not great with Detroit, and unless they start adding people, which we haven't seen yet, they stayed really healthy. All these different things. So my larger point being, I think the Darnold thing could work in Minnesota, even if it's for 8, 10 games. And at least you're like, get Justin Jefferson 8 games of a lot of targets so he doesn't complain. Like, even if that's the best thing he does, like, you're in a decent spot.
No, I agree, and this is a different place than Vikings fans have been in a very long time. I mean, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Matt Castle being here as sort of that guy who is just a veteran quarterback who could give you competent play while you're waiting for someone else. So Castle starts the season in 2014, then Teddy Bridgewater ultimately takes over in 2014, never gives the job back, and that's what you'd be looking for from Sam Darnold. There's this intriguing kind of upside that we always love with quarterbacks because once upon a time, Steve Young went from absolutely nothing to an all time great. And even with Ryan Tannehill or Geno Smith, there's enough where we can draw back on and say if the guy's brain isn't made of mush and he has a good disposition and he can learn and he's going through those kind of younger years where maybe there is some adversity, difficult seasons, but he makes it through to the other side and he's not playing in the XFL, then he's got a chance. And this even happened, with Rich Gannon and the Minnesota Vikings once upon a time. So we have seen it. It's not preposterous to think about, but this role specifically can be difficult for quarterbacks where you come in and it's like, all right, well, you're going to have a competition with this other guy and you're not really our guy. And what can you tell me about just Darnold's personality in general? Because I'm impressed with what he did in San Francisco, taking that backup role, winning the backup job over Trey Lance, and then you didn't hear a thing about it. You didn't hear agents leaking Darnold thinks he would actually be better than Brock Purdy or anything like that. But that's all I'm really drawing on. You had sort of a front row seat for him.
Yeah, look, I think we happened in Carolina. He went down there. They traded for him. He won the job, and then him and Baker kind of obviously were hand in hand. And Baker got himself benched and cut, and Sam ended up winning that job. Obviously, he got hurt in the preseason, which didn't help him. And I think he would have won that job over Baker transparently in Carolina. So he's been in this situation before, whether it be former number one pick in his own draft class, whether it be Trey Lance, who the Niners had every reason to make Trey Lance the backup or the starter, and cut Sam they didn't need to. It was a $40 million deal versus a guy that was a homegrown guy they traded 3 first-round picks for. So he's been in that situation before, whether it be young guy, whether it be more of a veteran. I just think his demeanor is one of somebody that Sam's just very mild-mannered. Like, you're not going to see much emotion at all one way or another, maybe a little bit of sad, maybe a little bit of happy. But, he's been in situations in the highest pressure market in the sport, dude got mono and he recovered his career a little bit from it. And like I just look at it, in my opinion of like, if let's say they go trade up for a JJ McCarthy, which feels like what's the most likely outcome, I guess, at this point, if they don't stay put, is he going to be intimidated by a Bo Nix and Michael Penix if they stay there and they draft them? I don't think so. I think a JJ McCarthy, yeah, if they trade up draft capital, you always know you're probably the guy they're looking to, they're always looking to play that next guy. But we've seen it before where in the Trey Lance situation and other situations, could he be the Jimmy G to what they did with Trey Lance, where it's like, oh, we're going to trade it for this guy, and we ended up just keeping Jimmy G because it actually works, or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think he'd be fine in that situation. And I just think having McCown there, I can't understand how much that like changes my perspective on what his ability to be. Again, Sam Darnold's rookie year numbers are not like he didn't throw up CJ Stroud numbers, but more touchdowns and interceptions, like on a bad Jets team, and they had show these moments, of, you could go back to that year, and it was like there was the end of that year, people hang on to it, they do, and you go back to some of it, and I think to myself, like, listen, I don't know long term if he's the guy, like I said, but I think he's either he's one of the 4 or 5 best backups at worst in the NFL. He's a top 40 quarterback, top 38 quarterback. I feel the same way with a Minshew. I feel the same way with Jacoby Brissett. Like, if they start for you and you have the right weapons around them, they can win games. We saw the Browns do it with Brissett. We've seen the Patriots do it with Brissett. We've seen with Minshew and the Colts. And I think the Vikings situation is better than both of those. So, and if Sam, like I said, if Sam's bad, like they have no long term commitment, they'll be fine. I don't see the. Some people complaining. I just don't really get what's the problem. Who cares?
Yeah, no, there's really no downside. I mean, the fact that there is no commitment and it's a quarter of the money at absolute most. We don't have the structure as we speak, but $10 million is not always $10 million on the salary cap. So if that's including incentives and whatever else, I mean, you're talking about a very small figure. It is really similar to what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did last year, where they bring in Baker Mayfield, they have Kyle Trask battle it out. Mayfield wins the job, and now they've got their quarterback at least for the next year or two in Tampa Bay. I think for the Vikings, where they're looking for somebody who can handle this maturely without causing any sort of issue, battling with another quarterback that they are very, very likely to pick, as you mentioned, in the first round. Make that quarterback better in the quarterback room every day. And if you have to start the first half of the season, then go ahead. And if it's going really well and you're in the playoff race, just leave it. We always just want the rookie to play so fast. And I think that this was hard on Sam Darnold. I think it was probably hard on Zach Wilson, although I think Darnold's personality better fit for maybe sitting and developing. I don't know if anything could be done for Zach Wilson, but with Darnold, hey, get thrown in the fire, go get demolished by Bill Belichick, made fun of by everybody on TV and social media and everything else. It just is really hard confidence wise for somebody that's young. And I think if it's McCarthy, then developing for a year rather than being thrown to the wolves is probably better. And also, this market does not chew people up and spit them out. It just, I think that the
The
Vikings get the
opposite.
you're right. The Vikings, I think, get the best version of people because you just don't have the same sort of pressure in the way that New York has. And that still exists even with social media, that it's like that. So I like it on pretty much every single level that you laid out. I want to ask you about Blake Cashman because this was a guy the Jets drafted, and Vikings the fans were high on him because he's a Gopher and he had a really good career with the Gophers. And there was some expectation that he would be taken higher because some of his raw tools ends up going in the fifth round. Did not play a ton there with the Jets, but we saw it come to fruition, all those tools last year with the Texans. So the way that you're indicating is that you kind of weren't surprised by that, it seems.
No, look, when he got to play, especially as a rookie with the Jets, he was great. Like, not great. He was good. He was a good player. He was like, wow, fifth round pick. Like the Jets might have found like a really good value in the fifth round. Fell because of injuries. Unfortunately, injuries crushed his entire Jets career, and it felt like every time he would come back and stay healthy, he stayed healthy through camp, and then it was like would get hurt or would pull a hamstring or do these different things, and you wonder with the Jets is this they've revamped their training staff since then, so you wonder if maybe that was part of it, and the raw tools were there, especially in coverage and things like that. He's a super athletic and big hitter and stuff like that. Patrick Queen, by the way, to the Steelers for $40+ million. Interesting. That was another Blake Cashman team. I had heard they were very much in the mix on Cashman. He had a bunch of suitors. The Vikings obviously, pay up for him, but I think he'll fit well. I think the Vikings linebacker play last year was awful, and I think it led to a lot of their problems, especially on defense. And he's a clear upgrade. He was, I think, the second or third best, coverage grade for any inside linebacker last year, in the NFL. I think PFF had that or somebody had it. No, he's a good player. And if he can stay healthy, he's a guy that like, he's 27 years old, like, or 26, 27, whatever he is, like, great. It's good value. It's not like an overpay by any means. I think he did well on that deal. I think the Vikings did well, 7.5 or so, $8 million a year. Like it's kind of, I mean, look, the Jets did it with Quincy Williams, and not the same thing, obviously, but Quincy ended up being an All Pro this year. They re-signed him for a kind of similar deal. I think it was like 3 for 24 or something of that nature. And no, I like the Cashman, signing a lot for them. I think adding multiple edge guys, adding a Cashman another year, be probably there's an argument to be made. Like, do you try to roll it with Sam and try to draft another DB? Do you try to what do you try to do here to maybe address this defense and be frisky? And then North, obviously, it all comes down to the quarterback, and I get that. But no, Cashman, to me, like that's a good signing. That's one of those where are the Vikings now Super Bowl contenders because they signed Blake Cashman? No. But are they 10% better at linebacker, 15% better than they were last year? 100%. And again, when that's the weakest part of your defense, in my opinion, like it's probably a pretty good thing to get better at, especially with guys in their prime coming off a good year and an area of weakness.
Well, I have a ton of respect for Jordan Hicks, who was there last year, but there are limitations to a 30 plus linebacker who had had injuries throughout his career, and especially coverage limitations. And I saw a stat about, I think it was something like how much ground a linebacker covered in coverage, and Jordan Hicks was last because I mean it's just he doesn't have the quickness anymore. I think he's a high class, really super tough old school linebacker, but Blake Cashman has physical skill that is going to allow Brian Flores to use him in different ways that maybe he couldn't use Jordan Hicks, especially like Cashman was not a big blitzer, and I think he could be. I mean, he went after the passer sometimes as a gopher, and that's something that
Yeah, did
they
it
can
with the Jets. He
potentially
was
use.
good. It was good.
Yeah.
He was strong with that. I'm telling you, with the Jets, like I felt like he was somebody that like could have panned out. Like he could have been a really good player for them. The only time Blake Cashman got hurt last year was when he played in MetLife. Like whatever it is, just keep him out of MetLife. He gets the Jets and the Texans this year on the on the schedule for the Vikings, and he'll get the Jets in Minnesota, so he won't have to quite worry about that stuff.
Speaking of the Jets, though, this upcoming season, Aaron Rodgers back from the Achilles injury, maybe it'll last more than a quarter this year. So I have one of my wife's relatives is a huge Jets fan, and he emailed me in the summer and he said, "You know what? I bet Aaron Rodgers gets hurt right at the beginning of the season because that's being a Jets fan." And then I emailed him that night, like, "How did you know? How did you know?" But you nod your head. All Jets fans seem to know that everything goes terribly wrong at the quarterback position. The curse of Neil O'Donnell, I don't know, the
Just
boomer
name it.
size.
Name
What
it. Sold his soul, man. He sold his soul for that Super Bowl title. Unfortunately, but
it's
great win,
the,
awesome, but tough.
probably the most underratedly outside of Jets fans cursed franchise because you have the Namath Super Bowl, so everyone goes, "Well, you won a Super Bowl, and it was like the biggest one ever." So, and then you're in New York and whatever else. But the Chargers, the Vikings, the Jets, they're all kind of in the same bucket of cursed teams. So, are you cursed again? I mean, because it feels like if Rodgers does come back and can play even at some Aaron Rodgers-y type level, if he hasn't done disturbing medical things to his body that has now left him twisted and decrepit, that team should be competitive. You see the Bills are losing a good amount of talent. Miami should still be a good team, maybe not quite the same as they were last year. And I didn't see enough talent leaving the New York Jets on defense for me to think, oh, well, that defense is just going to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean or something. So it's kind of like a dream delayed from last year. But if this works out, it still could result in the Jets being quite good.
Yeah, I mean, look, they should be good. I think they have a lot still left to add. Drew Lock to the Giants. Maybe Daniel Jones survives another year. But look, I think the Jets are just I'm in a mindset of they're going to be awesome. They're going to be 12-5, 13-4. We're going to go, wow, this is what we all thought it could have looked like last year, or they're going to be horrendous. Rodgers is probably going to walk away. Saleh and Douglas will get fired. Like that's just what it feels like at the moment. Where they signed John Simpson last night, and maybe he takes like a Tomlinson's role, but it's kind of like that's your fifth best offensive lineman. You hope AVT's back healthy. You hope Joe Tippmann takes a step in year two. You need another pass catcher, like a 1B, whether that's through the draft, trade, free agency, whatever it may be. You need at least two offensive linemen still, a running back too, another edge rusher now that they've lost Bryce Huff. So like they have a lot of work to do. But if Rodgers comes back and looks anything like Aaron Rodgers, you have Brees Hall fully healthy, coming off an incredible year off an ACL. Like now next year removed, you're just supposed to be better. Garrett Wilson in year three, Tyler Conklin, Vikings a Vikings favorite. Like it's been really good with the Jets, and should be even better with Aaron Rodgers. This defense should be really good. Sauce in year three, it's Jermaine Johnson in year three, Quincy Williams another year. So they should be good. I think the division's worse. I think New England rookie quarterback, I don't expect much out of them. Rookie head coach. Miami's lost a ton of talent, and they're going to have to go pay their quarterback who miraculously stayed healthy last year. We'll see if that happens again. And Buffalo, you always have a shot with Josh Allen. That said, that team feels old. And I know they let a lot of those guys go, but that was a huge core of their roster, and they couldn't get over the hump. So the Jets have every shot to go win the division next year, but got to keep Rodgers healthy, and they have got to add to the offensive line and receiver rooms over the next 48 hours, 72 hours, as well as on draft night.
Yeah, with Aaron Rodgers, I have made fun of him many times on this show because of his personality, but he goes under the category of you do not declare it's over until it is absolutely over
We did
because,
that. We've done this with Rodgers before, and he won two
yep,
MVPs. Like it
right.
just,
Yep.
and even like think of Brady. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's not Brady." 42-year-old Tom Brady sucked for Brady standards, very much like 2022 Aaron Rodgers wasn't Rodgers. Brady throws, that 2019, Kevin Byard, I think, picked it off, throws the pick six as the last basically pass as a Patriot. It was embarrassing. Goes to the Bucks and then like throws for like 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns at age 43, 44, 45. Rodgers is 40, and as much as the Achilles sucked, like maybe that was the big injury that he had remaining, and his body didn't take hits for last year. The rest of his body's fully healthy. Do you learn more? I don't know. Or he falls off a cliff. I'm just saying, like, I'm not writing that guy off until he's like, I'm walking away and he looks terrible. I don't think it's going to be a Peyton Manning like thing. I think at worst, it's maybe like Breeze that last year where the numbers were good, but the arm strength diminished a little bit and maybe he didn't have it. And they should have beat that Tampa team. They didn't in 2020. But yeah, I don't see like 20, whatever that was, 15 or 14 Peyton Manning where it's like he's awful and can't throw a football with a spiral. I don't think we're seeing that this year.
Well, just in general, it's a rule. Like with legends, you just don't count them out until it's actually over. And I even felt that way when Brady somehow made the playoffs at 8 and 9. I was like, man, I would not want to face. And it didn't work out, but I just very scary. And that's probably the way that the AFC East looks at Aaron Rodgers is by all logic, this shouldn't really be good. But yet, I mean, look at what Favre did when he went with the injury, with the shoulder injury with the Jets, and then he healed up, came to the Vikings, took them within one across the body pass from going to the Super Bowl. So it is never truly like a time to put the nail in the coffin. So I think one of the things we really missed out on last year is just that storyline was so interesting going into the season. I was like, what is he going to do with a new team? This is so interesting. And then first night, what? Like it's
Yeah, it
over.
was.
I
I
mean,
just
that is
you being in the stadium, you had no idea what happened, and there's no phone service. My Wi-Fi's not working. I'm trying to like figure out what's going on, call people, text people, be like, what are you seeing on TV? Because live, nothing looked like nothing happened, and then it's getting reported an ankle, and you're like, oh, did he sprain his ankle? Then you're like, oh my god, it's the Achilles, and then I people can call him a liar all they want. He was going to play this year. Like he was healthy enough to get cleared. They were going to clear him. He was fully practicing. He looked fine. The team choked and they couldn't take care of business in any of these games. And, it sucked. It would have been really cool just to be like, wow, someone came back from an Achilles in like 3 months at age 39. Like, this is nuts. Like, for medicine wise, I know Kirk Cousins is no longer a Viking, but, Kirk looks great in these workout videos. And like, that would have been a death sentence for a quarterback at 35 that's not that mobile. I don't know. I look at this stuff and like, say what you want about Rodgers or Kirk or any of these guys. It's great for the sport that like these guys can get hurt and be able to still come back and their careers are not instantly over. I think we were so accustomed to hearing Achilles and thinking like a Kobe where it's like he was cooked after that, or Chauncey Billups and these other guys in the NBA, or obviously in the NFL you look at Damian Woody just tore his Achilles week 17 2010 season, never played again for the Jets. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I just want to see it. We have until he plays a full 60 minutes. I won't believe he's even really on the Jets, but after that, we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think that the Falcons would not have gone all in on Kirk if they didn't believe in that. If their medical people didn't see what he had, I'm sure that his agent was able to get them medical information about Cousins to convince them that his Achilles was good enough to go. I still think it would have been very risky for the Vikings to re-sign him with that consideration, but just for athletes in general, I agree. I hope this was a step forward. So before I let you go, Will. Uh, Big deal to me is how bad Sam Darnold's weapons were when he was with the New York Jets. If you come to the Vikings, it's like Warren Moon. You get Jake Reed, you get Chris Carter, you're Jeff George, you get Randy Moss or whatever. You go to the Jets and you get something named Jaleel Scott. Was a so there's one of his weapons. Now for the rest of them, it's either going to be a Memphis Grizzly from their all-time roster or a New York Jet weapon. And I figured the Memphis Grizzlies would be the team that you would be least familiar with in the NBA.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair.
was Daniel Brown a weapon for Sam Darnold, or was he a all-time Grizzly?
Ooh, I'm gonna go Daniel Brown, tight end, right?
Daniel
Jets
Brown
tight
was
end.
a tight end for the New
Yeah,
York
for the
Jets.
G.
Yes,
He scored a random touchdown. I'm pretty sure somewhere. He's very bad. They
very
re-signed him like
bad.
3 times. Very weird.
Yeah, tight ends are hard to find. But Ty Conklin though was
Yeah, the goat.
number 3. Yeah, so there you
Yeah.
go. Josh Adams, is that a
Josh Adams, Notre Dame running back, baby.
okay? I knew you'd be good at this. Bryce Cotton.
I'm gonna go
Did
Bryce
Bryce
Cotton's
Cotton catch a
not a
pass?
Jet. I'm gonna go not a Jet.
He is not a Jet.
No.
Bryce Cotton is a
I
Memphis
was like, dude,
Grizzly.
I don't know who the hell that is. That's insane.
All right, Troy Bell. Is Troy Bell a Grizzly or a Jet?
I'm gonna go
Troy
Grizzly.
Bell. Troy Bell's a Grizzly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank God. That
You're
one
you're
sounded like a generic, like, fifth slot receiver.
all right. Lawrence Cager. Is that a
Dude, Jets and Giants, a legend. Georgia tight end. Former receiver, gained a lot of weight, and they made him a tight end. Jets started him. Fun fact: the Jets, week 1 of last year, or 2022, started Lawrence Cager at receiver over Garrett Wilson.
what?
The Jets lost by 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson had 8 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns the next week. Maybe don't start Lawrence Cager over Garrett Wilson. Regardless, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I had never heard of Lawrence Cager.
What's he doing
Just
these days? Is he still in the Giants? He might be on the Giants
no idea.
practice squad. He might be in the Giants practice squad. He is. Yep, he is a. Oh, he had 4 catches for 36 yards last year with the Giants in 11 games. He's
Good for
played.
him.
Yeah, he played a total of 3 games with the Jets and had 2 catches for 35 yards. Nice.
These are the players that Sam Darnold was actually throwing footballs to.
Oh yeah.
Kennedy Chandler. Is that a Jet?
I'm gonna go Grizzly.
Man,
Yeah.
I cannot get you on this. Kennedy
Yeah.
Chandler was indeed a Grizzly.
Some of these I'm just like, I don't know who this is. It has to be a Grizzly.
Did I say Robert Archibald already? Robert Archibald.
No, that's definitely not a Jet. There's absolutely no shot.
Neil Sterling. Is that a Jet?
Ooh. It might be a Jet. Is that a Jet? No.
I don't know. That's the game.
Mhm. I'm gonna go not a Jet, but this one I might
That's a
mess up
Jet.
on.
Neil Sterling's a Jet.
I should have gone off my gut. I questioned myself. That was stupid.
All right. I think. Trayvon Wesco.
Trayvon West. Oh, dude, West Virginia. They called him Baby Gronk when they drafted him out of West
Oh,
Virginia.
come on.
That dude could not move. His feet were stuck in the sand. Wow, what a brutal guy.
Harry DeHare.
That's not a Jet. There's just no way.
No, it's not. That
yeah.
actually is a mildly memorable NBA player, but I thought I'd throw one on there.
Yeah.
Well, you did well, but you're not perfect. So that
We're
proves
not all
that
perfect
Sam
in life.
Darnold.
We're not all
That
perfect in life, you know.
it just proves that Sam Darnold will be great as a Viking because those were
Yeah.
the people he's throwing to. So, um,
Yeah.
I think it's unequivocal analytics just there. Anyway, Turn on the Jets, awesome podcast. I usually don't listen to a lot of other teams' podcasts that have nothing to do with the Vikings, but I do listen to Turn on the Jets sometimes when things are happening with the Jets. Love what you do. Love what Joe
Thank you, man.
Caparosa does over there. You guys are doing awesome, awesome stuff. So thanks so much, man. I'm glad we could get together. And when the Jets sign a Viking, I'll come on your show.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we'll do. When the Jets get a Tyler Conklin extension in there, we'll reminisce.
That's right.
We'll reminisce about Conk's years with the Vikings. I appreciate the kind words, though. I'm always happy to come on.
All right. Thanks for doing it. And we'll definitely talk soon. Thanks, man.